Can you discuss a little bit what ultimately brought the hyperinflation to an end?
Yes. When the mark, by September 1923, when the mark, I think, was worth, when the dollar, I should say, was worth about 100 million marks, no one was taking it anymore. Various attempts had been made to to think of some new currency that people would accept. There was still just enough gold in Germany to back a new currency, although that gold was spilling out all the time towards the Allies in reparations. And eventually, when on the same day that Dr. Havenstein died in November 1923, he was succeeded by Dr. Schacht, who eventually became Hitler's banker. And he brought in this new note called the Rentenmark. The Reichsmark, the mark disappeared. The Rentenmark was brought in, and it was based not on gold, of which there by that time wasn't really enough. It was based on the notional value of land, which incidentally was the same as the assignat of the French Revolution in the 1790s. It meant nothing. People couldn't take a Rentenmark and go and buy a bit of land with it. But because people were in such despair, they were prepared to believe in this new currency. It was the important thing about the Schacht reforms was that the Reichsbank stopped discounting treasury notes. And so inflation stopped just like that, with an astonishing speed. And the Rentenmark, which went on for another, I don't know, I think it was about 12 months, before the Reichsmark, which was the new currency, could be brought in. So it went Mark, Rentenmark, Reichsmark. After the Second World War, it became the Deutschmark, but that's another story. Now, the effect of having the Rentenmark and a currency everyone believed in was very remarkable. In the first place, because people believed in it, and the food started flowing from the country into the town again. The farmers were prepared to accept the Rentenmark in exchange for the food. The problem in the towns was that nobody could afford to pay for it because they'd lost all their money. But at least this was a basis on which something could be done. It had another effect, that all the revolutionary movements were moving around, that were taking place in Germany at the time, and Hitler's beer cellar putsch, which had happened in early November. This was just one of the things that were terrifying everybody. There had been revolution in Russia, you see, a few years before. And all these, with the introduction of the Rentenmark and the end of the mark, all these political movements, left or right, ceased to trouble. It was again an extraordinary thing. It was at that point then something began to grow again. Unemployment again got much worse. But within 2 years, a German economy was being reconstructed and working.
So if the central bank stopped discounting or monetizing government debt, there was a dramatic cutback in government spending then as well, under the Rentenmark?
A lot of the unemployment, of course, that broke out then was, say, the railways being put in order. They were, as in Austria, about 2 or 3 times as many people as ought to be running the railways were running the railways. The post office again had twice as many operatives as ought to be in there. This was the sort of thing that they were able to sort out, and that's why you got a lot of unemployment. On the other hand, people began to believe that Germany was worth trading with once again. She escaped for the time a lot of the reparations payment which had ruined her, and things very slowly came back to normal. I repeat again, a lot of people were ruined, and and what was perhaps more terrible was that democracy had got a very bad name in Germany, which is one of the reasons why, 10 years later, it was possible for a demagogue to take over. But that was via the problems of the Great Depression.